Still rocking after all these years.
This is the story of my rock and roll butler.
This is it, the show that started it all. Often imitated, but never equal. From San Francisco, USA, online since 2004. It's the one and only Rock and Roll Geek Show. With the original Rock and Roll Geek, Michael Butler.
Welcome to the Rock and Roll Geek Show. My name's Michael Butler. Thanks a lot for joining me. I really appreciate it. Long time no here, friends. Today is Monday, October 31st. It's Halloween, 7:13 p.m. I'm back from vacation. Been back a little less than a week, and I'm well rested, and now I'm kind of tired again because I went straight back to work. But I'm going to, on this episode, I'm a little bit out of it. I need to get back into the swing of things. But on this episode, I'm going to be doing part 2 of the Lost Rockers series that I'm working on. I interviewed Tony Mann about his book, Lost Rockers. It's a great book. Let me find the book here. It's called Lost Rockers, Broken Dreams and Crash Careers by Stephen Blush, Paul Rachman, and Tony Mann. And Tony Mann has been so gracious to be on the show. We're going to do every artist in this book. And the first episode we did, I think 6. I don't remember how many artists. Maybe 6. How many did? I don't know. But this episode we're doing 3. We will be a little bit over halfway done with the book when we get done with this episode, and I'm going to do 2 more. We're going to do every artist in the book. I'm really enjoying the book. I took it with me on my vacation, and I'm almost finished with it. It takes me a long time to read because I'm so busy doing other things. But when I'm on the plane, I can read, so I'm almost finished with the book. It's a great book. It's a lot quicker of a read than it's taken me to read it, just because I'm so slow and I'm kind of idiotic. But it's a really, really good book. So Tony Mann comes on today. We recorded this right, I think the day before I left for my vacation. So that's what I'm going to play for you today, friends. Part 2. I'm going to go give out some Halloween candy to the kids, and then I'm going to hit the sack. I'm going to do a show again this week, I think. The next episode I do after this one is going to be just a regular Rock and Roll Geek episode, because I have a lot of people to thank for donations, and I have a lot of show reviews and other stuff to get to. And then I'm going to have Tony Mann back on, and we're going to record the part 3 and part 4 of the Lost Rockers series. Getting back into the swing of things, friends, I know it's been a while since I've done a show, and I apologize, but I'm going to be doing one on a regular basis now. Like I said, I'm going to try to do another one this week, just a regular Rock and Roll Geek show. So I'm going to shut up now, okay, and get right to the Tony Mann interview about Lost Rockers. Show notes, rockandrollgeek.com. Thank you to everybody who donated. Without your donations, friends, this show would die a horrible, putrid, stench-filled, rotten to the core, Halloween, zombie, stink, death. All right, you get the picture. Without your donations, I could not be doing this show. So thank you so much, friends. And please keep the donations coming. rockandrollgeek.com. All right, I'm shutting up. I'll say a couple things before we get out of here. Here's me and Tony Mann. Tony Mann, thanks for coming back on for part 2 of Lost Rockers.
Hey, Michael. First of all, I'd like to take a sip of this cold Tecate and
go.
Dedicate this toast to you.
Oh, well, you know what? I think I'm going to have to join you. Hold on a second. Let me get one out of here myself. Why not? I already had 3 height beers at lunch, but I'm going to go ahead and open up a Tecate. Right. I was drinking iced tea, but I can't let you drink alone, my friend, so hold on.
No way. All right, cheers. This to you.
Ah. All right.
That first sip is good.
Yes, always the best, actually.
That's true. Okay.
So last time we did, I think 6 artists, and we left off with Bette Davis.
Mm-hmm.
The next, Pat Briggs from Infinite Sea Snakes and
Psychotica.
Not really my style of music. A lot of this stuff is not really my style of music, but I don't really care if it's my style of music because I'm more interested in the story about people who didn't get, for whatever reason, didn't get...
The underdog.
Yeah, exactly.
The underdog.
Well, yeah, and either got screwed over or just didn't get what they deserved.
Right. Well, this
or
guy,
maybe they did get what
Bobby
they deserved.
Jameson was one of the kings of getting screwed over. Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me a little. So this kid grew up in Louisiana? Is that where he grew up? No, Arizona.
He grew up in Arizona. Yeah, he was born in Illinois, but they grew up in Arizona. And his mom had a bunch of failed marriages, and they moved around a lot. And that really affected him a lot. He felt like he didn't have anyone guiding him, And his grandmother was a violin player, and the mom played music a little, and she was super cool. I knew her. She was a very great lady.
Bobby Jameson's mom, you knew?
Oh, yeah. I knew his mom and the brothers. Yep. And anyway, so he grew up watching like American Bandstand and playing like a little Sears guitar and learning. And so... they had one of their stepfathers was named McDonald, so they made a Everly Brothers kind of band called the McDonald Brothers.
He and his brother named Bill.
Yeah, Bill Jameson. That's correct. And he has another brother too, but that's another story. So they performed at school proms and talent shows and things like that. So they felt out of place, but with music they started to fit in.
Started to get girls, the usual story.
Yeah. Right. And then they played at a high school assembly one time, right? And it was a real jock against kind of rocker type standoff. And all the football players were really mad that their girlfriends were giving them the eye when they were playing at the assembly. And so these guys started punching them, and they all had a big fight. And the principal just watched as these guys got really beat up, and Bill got really badly beat up and was kind of never the same after that mentally.
He went to they put him in like an institution or something like that, didn't they?
Yeah, for a while he got a lot of treatment, and he came out. I knew Bill as well.
He basically had permanent brain damage from getting beat up by the jocks. Pretty
much. So from that era, and this is like the Everly Brothers era. This is way back. These guys
What
were,
year was this? This was like, what year was this?
Well, this is in the 50s.
Yeah.
So anyway, what happened is this is like 1958 or something like that, late 50s. So anyway, he took care of his brother, and he was really, protective of his brother Bill. And once he got out of being institutionalized, he looked after him. And the mom was great. She had a great light way about her and a great sense of humor. She was artistic, and she was a really sweet lady. So anyway, what happened after that, they moved to Glendale, California.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like outside suburban Los Angeles.
Right.
So they went to California, and they kind of became almost like surfer guys in a way. And that's when he befriended guys like Billy Talbot and Danny Whitten and Ralph Molina, guys that would go on to play with, Neil Young and become Crazy Horse, basically, Those were like his childhood friends when he moved to California. So then he started to record surf songs.
How old was he at this time?
18 in 1963. He was 18
years old, moves to L.A., goes to Hollywood, and somehow starts writing songs and decides, the surf thing is happening, the Beach Boys are going on, so he starts writing surf tunes. That's
right. So he had a hit under the name of Bobby James called Let's Surf. And it was a surf, Beach Boys style 45.
Now
it had Elliot Ingber on guitar, who later played with Mothers of Invention and Captain Beefheart.
So tell me about Bobby James.
Bobby was friends of Frank Zappa from way back.
Hold on a second. I'm interrupting here. So his name was Bobby Jameson, but the record listed him as Bobby James. Was that
That's correct. Let's Surf was under Bobby James. It was just like took a showbiz name. So he's recorded under many different names, as we'll talk about.
Okay.
So at this time, this is his first recordings. And so he also wrote another song called California Surfer. That was a A-side to a female vocalist called Dee Dee Hope. And those didn't really chart. So he was thinking his career was already over. and he was like only 18. You know, he'd already been through a lot with his brother, and they moved away, and he's trying to start a career, and he thought, I guess I won't make it. But they used to hang out in this coffee shop on the Strip called Carolina Pines. And him and his future Crazy Horse friends, right, were hanging out in there drinking coffee and talking about rock and roll. And this guy came in, Tony Alamo, and he was like a hipster promoter. And he just kind of liked how Bobby looked. Bobby kind of looked, this is the time the Beatles are coming out.
He liked the way Bobby looked.
Yeah, Bobby basically looked like he could be in the Beatles at this time. And this is when the Beatles first came out.
Good-looking kid, nice hair, shag hair, and figured, hey, I can make some money out of this kid.
Right. So he kept coming in and seeing Bobby and his friends hanging out, and he told him, Tony Alamo, he told him, look, I'm going to make you a star, right to his face. And he didn't even know if he could sing or anything. He just approached him and thought he has charisma. This guy's a star. So all of a sudden, he came in one day to Carolina Pines and put down Billboard and Cashbox magazine. And Bobby opened it, and there's elaborate pullouts in there that's like calling Bobby Jameson the world's next phenomenon and the star of the century. There's no record, there's no music, there's no nothing. But the ad shows Bobby like in a silhouette. And this is the time the Beatles are the big phenomenon, and they're calling Bobby the world's next phenomenon. This is in Billboard magazine. And so he kept putting bigger and bigger ads in the magazines for Bobby. And Bobby was like, why are you doing this? You know, I really, you don't even know me. So finally he started to work with Tony Alamo. He cut a song called I'm So Lonely and I Want to Love You, and at a place on Melrose Ave on its Talamo Records. It's Tony Alamo was the guy. So it became a #1 hit in Cleveland and Detroit. Because of the Windsor, Ontario, DJ Terry Knight. He was later the guy behind Grand Funk and Terry Knight and the Pack. So he was a DJ at the time, and he picked that hit and he made that a hit song. Okay, so Bobby cut a bunch of singles, Meadow Green and a bunch of other ones. But Tony Alamo was rejecting major label offers to buy him out because he was trying to control Bobby and make him a big star. I mean, he took out giant billboards on Sunset Strip of Bobby Jameson before anyone even knew who he was, and everyone's walking around, who is this guy? He has all these big ads in the magazines, and nobody even knows the guy or his music. Finally got a couple hits. He appeared on American Bandstand doing I'm So Lonely, interviewed by Dick Clark and all that stuff.
In the book, it says that Bobby found out later that those first singles that were released, this Tony Alamo guy actually bootlegged the records. And to sell, he bootlegged his own records, and he sold them at a discount to record distributors, and never paid Bobby a dime for all these records. That he sold 100,000 copies, never made a penny off these records, right?
That's correct. He was never paid for 1 cent, and actually, Tony Alamo never even paid Billboard or Cashbox for $15,000 in ads as well. So he scammed Billboard and Cashbox magazine back then.
So the silhouette ads claiming he's going to be the next big star never even paid for those advertisements.
Right. Bobby was getting kind of threatened from Tony Alamo to sign a contract with him, and Bobby was feeling scared for his life about this guy. The guy wasn't paying him, and he refused to sign a contract. So. The guy was basically beating him up, and he was afraid for his life.
He was literally beating him up. He asked for money, and the guy threw him up against the wall and said, "You little son of a bitch, I'll kill you," or something like that.
Basically, and this happened to him a couple times in his career. So, come to find out,
and
this guy,
he's still 18, 19 years old, something like that.
Still a teenager. He's still 18 years old, And so he finally has a hit song. He's on American Bandstand. And he's like, well, I don't have any money, so, when do I get paid? And the guy, wants to beat him up. Doesn't want to pay him.
How dare you ask for money, you little son of a bitch? And he kicks his ass. So he's afraid to ask for money now.
Right. So what happens is, eventually, Tony Alamo left music to become a Christian ministry leader. Even though he was actually a Jewish guy, he made a Christian cult kind of thing. And he married an 8-year-old girl and was trafficking her around the southern states as a prostitute. And he's currently serving 175 years in Indianapolis maximum security prison. And even though he's in prison, Tony Alamo is still allowed to have a business. And you see his leaflets like in LA and here in New York and other places for Tony Alamo Christian Ministries. So he still has like a cult following and still runs a business from inside the prisons.
To this day.
To this day,
and nice.
Still owns some of Bobby Jameson's publishing.
Oh, nice.
And Bobby Jameson never had a manager, really, and never signed a contract with anybody. But yet these people, his music publishing is splintered among all these people that claim that, they forged contracts or whatever they did.
And Tony and Bobby Jameson got not dime one of any of that stuff. Never saw a dime from that.
Never saw a dime, and this stuff's been like reissued, and he's never been paid for it. Right before his death, he did license his single "Hey Little Girl, Lick My Lollipop" to some horror movie. For, like
Bobby
Jameson.
Bobby Jameson is dead now.
Bobby Jameson passed away, recently.
We'll get to that.
It's pretty sad. But
a lot more story.
And Tony Alamo's still alive, in prison, running business and making money off Bobby's music. So then what happened at that point, Bobby feared for his life. He got a letter from Andrew Loog Oldham, the producer of the Rolling Stones. And at the time, the Stones had never even come to the States, all right? And we previously spoke about Andrew Oldham, about another artist in Lost Rocker, Brett Smiley. So anybody that worked with this guy besides the Stones, it kind of didn't work out for them. But anyway, so he went to England to record with Andrew Loog Oldham and the Stones.
Took him up on his offer. He said, "What the hell? I got nothing going on here. I'm going to go to England. I'm going to look up Andrew Loog Oldham."
Keith Richards wrote a song called "All I Want Is My Baby." You can see it on YouTube. It's kind of it's almost like a Benny King kind of song, like "Stand By Me" or something like that, like a Motown influenced song, soulful. It's written by Keith Richards and Mick Jagger sang background vocals on the song. And Jimmy Page played lead guitar on the song. This is 1964, and before the Stones came to America. And so what happened is Bobby arrived from the airport, and they met him with like Jeannie and Chrissy Shrimpton and all these model girls that hung out with the Stones. And at the time, Bobby was more famous than the Stones, right then, because he had a couple of hits, and he was on Bandstand already. So when he met the Stones, he told them, "Hey, you guys have to come to America." And Mick Jagger said, "Bobby, you must be kidding." And he said, "No, I'm not kidding. You guys are getting very popular. I was just in Detroit where I have a #1 record, and there was a contest, Beatles and the Stones, and the Stones are more popular." And Mick Jagger at the time could not believe him. He thought he was lying to him. So that's the era we're talking about. So Bobby's like, still a teenager. He's recording with the Stones. He's already had his own hit and been on Bandstand. Still no money. He starts doing some modeling for Peter Kane.
Which, by the way, interrupt again. His American Bandstand performance is one of the lost episodes that you can't find. Is that right?
That's correct. In fact, some of the only footage of Bobby Jameson at all performing is in our film, and some of the only footage of Bobby Jameson at all is from Mondo Hollywood, that film. Bobby had even toured opening for the Beach Boys when the Beach Boys first came out, and this is over 50 years ago now, and there's no photos or footage even from that. So they would never let him have a band. He'd always just be playing by himself. So here's a guy opening for the Beach Boys when they're really popular, and he's just playing guitar, so he had a hard time from the get-go. So anyway, so here he is in England. He records "All I Want Is My Baby," and, he recorded it. It was a hit. He made some TV show appearances, and then he started to get popular, and he started to be in Vanity Fair and some magazines and successful doing modeling, right? So
still never got a penny.
Still didn't get a penny.
But they put him up in didn't they give him an apartment or something in London? Where did he stay?
Yeah. They set him up in London, and what happened is Decca promoted the hell out of the record, and it became popular. And at the time, Bobby got popular for wearing one glove, kind of like what later Michael Jackson would be famous for. But he was wearing this one long leather glove for a while, and it got in the newspapers. and he went to do a TV performance of one of his songs on Thank Your Lucky Stars. And PJ Proby, a British rock star, was backstage and told him, don't wear the glove, when you go to do the video. And what happened is he took his advice. He didn't wear the glove, and everybody got all pissed off at him because it was kind of like a live recording. It was a live presentation, so there's no video of this either. So the whole video had been set up to showcase that he was wearing one glove and all this stuff. And then when he didn't wear it, everybody got mad at him. So that didn't help. And then, PJ Proby wasn't exactly the best guy to take advice from. He had like a wardrobe malfunction on TV where like his pants ripped and his dick fell out. So he kind of like was blacklisted from rock and roll in England. So here's Bobby taking advice from this guy, and it didn't exactly help his career. Then Bobby also said, hey, Andrew Loog Oldham and you guys, that's great. This is a hit song. I want to record my songs. And they got in a lot of fights about this. And he ended up like severing ties with all these people. And he was kind of abandoned in London as a teenager.
Everybody left him at his apartment. They just dumped him, and he's stuck in England with no money. Does he still have the apartment?
Yeah, but what happened is they basically just disassociated with him, and he was broke, and they stopped paying for it. So he had to go to the American consulate in London and say, look, I'm a teenager. I don't have any money. Send me back home.
19 years old at this time.
That's correct. So they sent him back to the States, and when he got there, nobody was waiting to meet him or anything. It was just like he barely got back. He didn't even have any money. So it was pretty sad. He took the bus to LA, and he was hanging out on the Sunset Strip again. And he was asked to be in the Monkees at one point, and he turned it down because they said, look, this is going to be a new rock and roll series. And he said, well, what's it about? And they said, well, it's kind of like A Hard Day's Night, or, trying to be like the Beatles and the Stones. And he said, well, yeah, I was just in England hanging out with the Beatles and the Stones. I just recorded with the Stones. And, everybody would just think everything he said was crazy because it just sounded ridiculous because he's basically a nobody at this point again and broke. So, but he actually turned down being in the Monkees. He was picked to be in it and turned it down. And he called some of the guys in Love and asked them to go and see if they want to be in it. And he told those guys, hey, maybe you guys want to be in the show. I don't. I've already been in the hanging out with the Beatles and Stones. I don't want to pretend. He was a young kid. He saw it as corny. So he turned down being in the Monkees. So there was this label, right? This is a very complicated story, but I'll try to keep it simple. There was a label, okay, called Mira Records in LA. And there was a budget line for them called Surrey Records. All right. So what happened is this guy, Chris Ducey, is an actual person who was going to do an album called Songs of Protest and Anti-Protest. And they had already printed the sleeve. And the sleeve had a picture of Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones playing harmonica on the cover and the song titles. But they had a dispute over money or something with Chris Ducey. So the real Chris Ducey refused to record the album. So these guys got a hold of Bobby and said, look at this album cover and these song titles, Girl from the East and other titles. The album cover was already printed, and printing is expensive for vinyl records. So they wanted him to record songs with these titles, write songs and record them for this album. And then they were going to take the album cover, put it back through the printing press, and where it said Chris Lucy, cover up part of the D and make it say Chris Lucy instead of Chris Ducey.
Now, did they offer him any money for this?
He was paid $200. He was broke.
So he got $200. He needed the money.
$200.
Here's a paying gig, kid. We don't really like you, but we got this project, and we got a budget of $200. Take it or leave it.
And he took it, and he didn't get any of this. He wrote the songs, and he recorded it. And he didn't get any of the songwriting. He still has no contract, no nothing. $200 cash, and that's the end of it. And this album songs of protest and anti-protest has gone on to inspire bands like Love and Brian Jonestown Massacre and all kinds of generations of music. And it's been reissued at least 5 times that I know of on different labels. And he'd never been paid a cent for any of this stuff.
Brian Jonestown Massacre, didn't they record one of the songs off that album too?
Yes. Towards the end of Bobby's life, Anton contacted Bobby and said, I want to record one of your songs. And he said, Bobby said, look, if you pay me $2,000 cash and don't put the publishing name on it, because it wasn't his publishing, they're being ripped off. If you just put my name that I wrote the song and you pay me cash, you can record 500 copies of this vinyl. And it was There's a War Going On is the name of the song. So he actually did pay him cash, and it worked out. He stuck to his word. He told Anton, if you mess with me, I'll come get you. Because Bobby Jameson was somewhat of an outlaw. I was lucky to befriend him and that he liked me because he wouldn't talk to hardly anybody. And he was living in a trailer park in San Luis Obispo with his mom, and who was at the time was in her 90s. And the brother was living down the street in kind of like a little assisted care place. And they were pretty close-knit. They were almost like a little gang of a family. So anyway, Anton paid, and that's one of the only times he got some money for something that he did.
Approached for the book, did he ask for any money to be in the book?
He didn't ask for money to be in the book, but what happened is we originally approached him to be in the documentary first, because I've told you we started to make a documentary
before the book,
right? And then the book came after. But he didn't ask for a cent. He didn't care. He just cared that we cared about him and we respected him and we wanted to tell his story. Because if you look online, there's a blog, Bobby Jameson put his whole life story online. And for someone at an older age to learn the computer and to kind of, rebuild himself through putting his story back on the internet, it's pretty impressive that he did that. And a friend of mine, Howie Pyro,
from Degeneration.
He was in The Blessed, Degeneration. He was in Danzig, and he's a friend of mine from way back. And Howie is the one who first told me about Bobby's story and said, "You got to hear this guy's story. It's amazing." And if you read, Lost Rockers and Bobby's story online, it's just, man, the guy was he was amazing, and he was such a outlaw, and he wouldn't really take any shit from anybody. But it didn't help him with the people he was dealing with. He was dealing with the worst of the worst, and he had a really tragic end to his life. It was very heartbreaking. And the more people learn about Bobby, he's going to become a legend. He's really he was a really cool character, and he's like the epitome of like rock and roll attitude.
And I will put a link to Bobby Jameson's blog on show notes of this episode, rockandrollgeek.com. BobbyJameson.blogspot.com. I think that's the a really sad story. Really, truly sad story. There you go. That's a fucking tearjerker, man.
It is. It's brutal. I mean, there could easily be a whole book on Bobby Jameson. It's a wealth of, he lived a very rich life, but he didn't
very
get
poor
rich from it.
life. All right, then let's uplift a little bit with the next artist, whose name is Rick Fox.
Okay, right. Oh, very cool. Yeah, Rick Fox
He's the next
is
one
the
in the
guy
book, I
who.
believe,
You may have heard of this guy because he played in Steeler and the original Wasp, and he actually came up with the name Wasp. Originally, Rick Fox is from Amityville,
player.
Long Island. He's a Polish-American guy, and he grew up in Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
Now, what did he play? Did he play bass?
He's a bass player. Yeah,
No,
he's still around.
Okay, but in the original Wasp, wasn't Blackie the bass player?
No, he was a guitar player, and then he became bass, and then he went back to guitar again.
All right, that shows how much I know about Wasp. Even though I have a big, huge, I have a door-sized poster in my studio right here of Blackie Lawless in Wasp.
Blackie Lawless asked me to join Wasp at one point.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I don't regret that I said no, but anyway,
my
it doesn't
band-
mean I don't like.
here's
Doesn't mean that I don't like the music.
Yeah, here's a little story. My band, American Heartbreak, opened for Wasp at Slim's in San Francisco. This was late.
Okay.
This is when Chris Holmes just got back into Wasp, and he had this really ridiculous-looking motorcycle handlebar on a spring.
The mic stand with the motorcycle.
He would not move it off the stage, and they gave us about 6 inches of stage room, and we used confetti and all this other shit, and they tried to get us to clean up the stage, and nobody would clean up the stage. And Blackie Lawless was just a really mean motherfucker at this damn show, man. And he was a mean motherfucker to everybody, including everybody at the club. And the Slims, I don't know if you've ever been to Slims, but there's this
Yes, I have.
video screen that goes down between bands. And he pissed the club off so much, the video screen kept going down while they were playing. And then it would go back up and down and up and down. He finally, after about 3 songs into this, he got so pissed off, he just walked off the stage. It was hilarious.
Wow. Well, sometime I can tell you a lot of hilarious stories about Blackie Lawless myself. But
Chris Holmes was a cool guy, though.
Yeah.
At least he was to us. All right, so back to Rick Fox. Rick Fox, original bass player for Wasp.
Rick Fox, way before there ever was a Wasp. He was growing up in Brooklyn, and he used to hang around with bands like the Brats, the Planets, and Kiss. And he had a band called the Martian Rock Band that used to play CBGBs in Max's Kansas City, like right around like 75, 76. The Martian Rock Band, he like wore like this crazy, like he was a space alien makeup. It's amazing. Google some images of him. It's amazing. But he used to play in the New York area with Martian Rock Band, and they were a freak show, man. Let me tell you, they were pretty wild. And then, so he was friends. So he went out with one of Peter Criss's sisters, and Peter Criss was from Greenpoint, Brooklyn as well. And so he used to go to some of the early Kiss Loft rehearsals, and Rick Fox actually took a lot of great photos of those very, very early days of Kiss, because he was at all the early rehearsals when they were forming the band, when they were rehearsing, when they played a private record party at the Fillmore, and he had a lot of ties to that whole scene. Even at a young age, he was a fan. Then he started playing music, and he would be playing around like New Jersey and the glam rock bands. He had a band called Virgin, and then they were later called Sin, and then he played in a band called the E. Walker Band. So he's mostly playing like covers of hard rock and glam stuff at the time, a couple originals. All right, so he moved out to L.A. To play in Blackie Lawless's band. At the time was called Sister, okay? But then Rick Fox came up with a better name called Wasp, all right?
W-A-S-P. Now, did he tell you, I'm assuming you know Rick Fox.
Yeah, I know Rick, sure.
Because Wasp was
We Are Sexual Perverts is
that's
one of
what okay, is that what he says it stood for?
Yeah, that's one of them.
We are
yep.
I heard We Are Satan's something or other. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
there's a lot. It's like, Kiss had
So-
Knights in Satan's Service, Kids in Satan's Service. Wasp was We Are Sexual Perverts.
So he goes, hey Blackie, I got a better name than Sister. We're gonna call it WASP. And Blackie goes,
That's right.
What the hell's that stand for? And he goes, We are sexual perverts.
Right, but also
Okay.
they are white. They are white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. They are white people too.
Oh, that's
So
right. Hey, we'll call it. We're going to be a take. There you go.
Sometimes he takes flack as being almost like a white power guy because he's proud of his Polish American heritage, but he is not a racist guy. So,
why does that make you a white power guy when you have Polish American heritage? Does that make you? Well, I don't understand that. Why that would you would think people would think you're a white power?
Well, somehow people get this all misconstrued and think that he's a racist dude, but he is not a racist guy. He's just proud of his roots, and that's it. I know the guy. He's not a racist guy. He's a cool guy.
I guess it's not okay to be proud of your roots if you're a white person.
Yeah, exactly. It comes off bad sometimes.
Yeah, it's not.
Doesn't mean he doesn't like other people. If you're, if you like rock and roll and you're racist, you got to be pretty screwy because you know where all this music came from, and it wasn't white people.
Yeah.
All
right. So he talks Blackie into changing the name to Wasp.
Right, and then some things came between them. He wasn't in the band for very long, and then
I'm sure it was all his fault because Blackie's such a nice guy.
Blackie. Yeah, he ended up out of Wasp, and the usual bullshit drove him out of the band. Then he was in Ron Keel's band Steeler.
Oh yeah,
with Yngwie Malmsteen. Okay, so he's on the Steeler album. With
so he played bass in Steeler.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Wasp and Steeler are two of the most important LA bands, but you never hear about Rick Fox. So it's pretty weird.
That's because he's the bass player.
Exactly. He's not the front man. So, but he's charismatic.
I cannot
guy.
relate
he
to
looks
that,
cool.
by the way.
He's a charismatic guy. He looks cool, and he's a rock and roller. He still is. So, he was in Steeler, and then after a while, that happened to a certain point, and then he was out of Steeler. In the mid '80s, he had a LA lineup of Sin with one of the guys who was in Frank C. Starr, one of the guys who was in the Four Horsemen later.
Frank Starr. I know of him
Frank
quite
Starr.
well.
Right. So then Sin recorded a demo produced by Dana Strum.
Dana Strum, was he the guitar player or bass player for?
He's a bass player of Vinnie Vincent and Slaughter.
Yeah, that's
Dana
right.
Strum.
Yeah.
And through Strum, Vinnie Vincent ended up stealing ripping off a bunch of ideas for Vinnie Vincent Invasion songs.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So
which
great.
I don't know if that's something you want to be proud of, because I don't think that Vinnie Vincent Invasion was a great album, was it?
Well, that's controversial.
Okay.
People love it or they hate it.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I don't really care too much, but it's okay.
People love it or hate it pretty much. But anyway, they like a lot of people don't realize that a common problem for big bands is that they're under pressure and they're on tour and they have to come up with material, and you got your whole life to write that first album, and then you got to write another one in 6 months when you're on the road.
Exactly.
So a lot of people don't understand this type of thing, and
that is what's known as the sophomore slump, and that's why there is a sophomore slump.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And, there's some exceptions, like Prince or someone who can crank out tons of music. But for most rock and roll bands, they're lucky they can get an album worth of good material together. So, they look to other people and take little ideas here and there and spin it a little and call it their own.
Yeah, steal a song from Rick Fox. Why not?
Exactly. So then he's interviewed. You can see him in Decline of Western Civilization Part 2.
That's right, with Penelope Spears' movie, yes.
Yeah, so then he... right around that time, he was playing with the band called Burn, and they were managed by Wendy Dio, who was Ronnie James Dio's wife.
Uh-huh.
So that looked like it was going to happen, but nothing really happened with them. And he ended up joining a band called Surgical Steel, and these guys had once backed Rob Halford, but that didn't happen for him either. So then, this is really weird. He joined on a left turn, he joined the California State Military Reserve. He just gave it all up. And
cut off his hair and joined the army.
Basically, yeah. And then he got deep into like the Renaissance Fair scene and he was serving as a vice president of the LA chapter of the Polish American Congress, and he had a regiment of Polish Commonwealth, and he also became a community emergency response team member. So he did everything to like stay away from the whole scene for a while, and can't really blame him after all he'd been through. He'd been pretty much chewed up and spit out at this point. He was like a glam rocker guy, and he was a product of hair metal kind of era.
Financially, joining the military was probably one of the best things he could have done.
Well, yeah, he just felt like kind of disenfranchised, and he just reinvented himself and started a whole new lifestyle. And then he was lucky to be around the glitter scene in '70s in New York and Sunset Strip in the '80s, and now he can kind of go to these type of reunion shows and jam with bands. And they had a Steeler reunion.
Oh, nice.
And so he kind of keeps a little hand in playing, and he gets out and plays every now and then, and he still loves music.
Did he cut all his hair? I'm assuming he doesn't have long hair anymore, or does he? Yeah, maybe.
No, he does. He has long hair. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at his Wikipedia page. He's got long hair and a
He's got
goatee.
like some fancy facial hair now, like a fancy mustache. Like he looks like he could be like one of Three Musketeers or something.
He actually
now,
has a Renaissance looking facial hair, Renaissance fair hair.
Yeah, and he still keeps a hand in music, and he lives outside of the LA area. He lives, he lives in California, but quite a distance from LA. But keeps a hand in music. He goes on, plays with some bands once in a while. He goes to like NAMM Festival and things like that. Yeah. But he's yet to make a big breakthrough. But he still keeps playing. He still loves music, and now he has this experiences behind him. So we just kind of like to state that all these lost rocker people, we respect all these people. Their heart's in what they do, and not everybody makes it. Like it's like getting hit by lightning to make it in music.
Exactly, and, very difficult.
Almost
and these impossible.
People, it's their lifestyle, and they're probably never going to stop till they die. No matter what. So that's what Rick Fox is all about. He's like a lifestyle rock and roll guy. That's in his heart.
All right, let's do one more chapter, and this is somebody near and dear to my heart. This guy's name is Charlie Farren. I knew of
Okay.
Charlie Farren. When I opened the book, I looked at all the names, and I didn't recognize really any of them, except for Charlie Farren.
Okay.
I knew that
That's
name.
interesting.
I knew that name from the Joe Perry Project because I was a huge fan of those first two Joe Perry Project albums. Fantastic
Sure.
albums. Fan-fucking-tastic albums. Charlie Farren was the singer on the second album.
That's correct. Yeah, he's after Ralph Mormon. That's correct. And he was actually picked by Ahmet Ertegun to be in the Joe Perry Project, who was the president of Atlantic Records. So he didn't just get, it wasn't like an audition. They said, you should be in this band. So he's from Massachusetts, suburban Massachusetts outside of Boston. And he played with a lot of different bands. His first group doing like original stuff was called Balloon. And they had like in 1980, they had a great local following, and they had some popular songs on the radio. And, it's like East Coast, West Coast,
Yeah,
and Listen
those
to
songs-
the Rock.
those songs made
balloon,
it-
Those were Balloon songs that he had recorded before.
Yeah, my two of my favorite songs on the entire Joe Perry Project catalog, East Coast, West Coast, is possibly my favorite Joe Perry Project song of all time. Either that
Great.
or Conflict of Interest, Shooting Star, but East Coast, West
Those are
Coast
good too. Yeah.
East Coast, West
Well, I
Coast
want
is
to tell
one
you,
of the
like,
best
I'm
ones.
from New York, but in my high school era, I was living in New Hampshire, in New England, and this is when like Aerosmith is like the Led Zeppelin of the
Yeah, of
Northeast.
course,
Like
of
if you're
course.
from the Northeast, like Aerosmith was like the American Led Zeppelin.
Yeah,
So you'd
exactly.
see guys from Aerosmith. Like my mom sold real estate with Brad Whitford's mom. So we'd see these Aerosmith guys around in high school, and that's I'm in high school. And, I started a tribute band with this guy, and Mark Ferrari, and we started an Aerosmith tribute called Last Child.
Oh, nice.
When Joe and Joe Perry and Brad were out of Aerosmith, and he later went on to be in, Keel and Ferrari and all kinds of bands, and he was actually in Wayne's World as the in the house band guitar player, Mark Ferrari. But anyway, so like I'm saying, Aerosmith was very big around that time. And so this is when Joe Perry Project happened. And Joe Perry was, the first album came out, and he was going around playing colleges, and it was exciting to see an arena guy playing in these little clubs. And, then all of a sudden the second album came out, and now Charlie Farren is the singer. And it kind of took him to a new commercial height because he had like a really good song with these guys playing. It was great.
And Ralph Mormon was a complete mess, and I imagine that.
Yeah,
even-
Ralph Mormon was in a band called Bucks with Punky
Yes,
Meadows.
that's right.
And Ralph
Exactly.
Mormon wrote White Lightning, which was
Yes.
later an Angel song.
Yeah,
And
I have
So
that Bucks
anyway,
album.
yeah, you have the Bucks album.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out posthumously. It didn't come
Yeah.
out at the time.
Yeah, I have
But,
the. Let me rephrase that. I have the MP3s of that Bucks album, so I don't actually have.
That's okay. It's okay. That's cool.
So Charlie
anyway,
Charlie Farren took Ralph Mormon's place. It was the Joe Perry Project. So he was, you can technically do that when you're Joe Perry because hey, it's my project. I'm doing a new version of the project, and I got this guy Charlie Farren. Charlie Farren, I'm assuming he was in he was from Boston too. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, outside the Boston area, right?
Yeah.
He grew up in like Everett and Malden, suburban Boston area, basically Boston surrounding areas.
That album called "I've Got the Rock and Rolls Again." Great album.
Uh-huh.
Great album.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And they did a tour with Ozzy and Def Leppard, and they also played on Open for Rush on that Moving Pictures tour.
Yeah,
And I saw him play headline a bunch of clubs and things like that. So they were just working really hard. And
I don't think that album sold well. Joe Perry talks about it and talks about that era in his life in his book.
it was hard for him, If you've got to think he's in Aerosmith, and then he's trying to pick up the pieces, and he's not Steven Tyler, and it's hard to. Steven Tyler's one of the best frontmen of all time. It's hard to just replace him, even though he got great songs. It wasn't Aerosmith, okay? So, and also Charlie felt Joe was in a bad way with drugs and stuff, and.
Also, during that time, there was also talk about behind the scenes. There was Steve Tyler was coming to shows and stuff, and there was a little bit of talk about there was like behind the scenes stuff. Talk about a possible Aerosmith reunion with Joe Perry.
That's right. That's right. And it was,
Why am I gonna?
he's
I'm a side man
he's in a band called Joe Perry Project, and he's the front man. So he felt that he was gonna get to some bigger heights with his career. So he started a band called The Enemy. All right, and
so he leaves Joe Perry Project, forms The Enemy.
And then like around 85, and so he had a couple songs out, and they were opening for like Twisted Sister and Blue Oyster Cult, and even end up opening for Aerosmith sometimes, but they didn't quite make it, and the band kind of fell apart. So then Charlie did some session work on Bad Company's Fame and Fortune album, and on a Nona Hendrix album.
Now, session work, did he play guitar, or was he a background singer, or what did he do?
Yeah, guitar on Bad Company, Fame and Fortune.
Now, when he was in Joe, because I never saw Charlie Farron in the Joe Perry Project. I never saw Joe Perry Project live. Did he play guitar as well in Joe Perry's band?
Yeah, sometimes he'd play guitar, sometimes he'd sing. And he's a really talented musician, and if you ever get a chance to see him, you should see him.
I know he's talented.
Really entertaining. Sure. He performed in Boston for us at the Prudential Center Barnes & Noble thing for Lost Rockers, and he was just great. And he played some of these songs, and he's super entertaining. He's a very charismatic guy. He's still a good-looking guy even now. And he's got a great voice. He plays his guitar beautifully, and he's a super talented musician. So he started to do some session work after that, take a break, and then in '86 he formed a power trio with David Hull and John Muzzy, and
David Hull,
Fahrenheit.
David Hull, great bass player, fantastic bass player. David Hull.
David Hull has even played some shows in Aerosmith.
That's right.
Tom Hamilton was sick.
Yeah.
Yep. He's a great bass player. And so they had an album called Fahrenheit in like '87.
I think I remember that album.
By Keith Olsen.
Yeah.
Yep. And they went on tour opening for Boston. And
you know what? I think I may have. I saw Boston on the Don't Look Back tour, and I think I may have seen Fahrenheit. I think it was Boston, Sammy Hagar, and I think Fahrenheit might have been the opening band.
Yeah, that was a tour. Yeah, I saw it. I mean, I was very good friends with Brad Delp, and I've been over Brad's house.
I could be
Brad
wrong.
Delp actually took me to get my driver's license. I was really good friends with him.
Actually, I'm probably wrong. I think because Fahrenheit was 1986. I saw Boston in '79, so I'm wrong on that.
Oh, Don't Look Back you're talking about?
Yeah,
That's no. It's much later than that. It's '87.
Okay.
So that'd be like third stage. Probably, right? Yeah, but those guys are all friends and certainly know each other for sure. And anyway, so he went on tour opening for Boston, and he had some time on the charts there, but it just kind of didn't happen, and it didn't really kick off. He didn't have the big money behind him, and he was always still linked. They'd refer back to Aerosmith and things like this. So he kind of gave that up for a while in the '90s, and he took a job at Hewlett Packard and Compaq,
What did he do what did he do in the computer industry? What kind of work did he do? And what kind of job did he take?
He took like a regular day office job for these guys. I mean, he's a very organized, together guy.
Okay, not a computer programmer or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
And so he, he's a together guy. He's a really great guy, Charlie. And he keeps making solo records. And he plays a lot around with people like Peter Wolf and John Butcher. And
did he play on any Peter Wolf albums?
No, but they play shows together.
Okay.
So let's see. He also had a album in 2007, I think, called Tuesday, and that was a song composed by Brad Delp. And when Brad Delp, we were all close with him, and he committed suicide, and we were all pretty affected by it. And he actually did a version of Brad Delp's Tuesday on that album. It was really beautiful. And he kind of is a guy that's not influenced by other people's music so much anymore. He just kind of creates his own music, and he's a really talented guy. I like Charlie a lot. He's a super nice guy, and wish him all the best.
Yeah, Charlie Farron. I love that guy. All right. Well,
Yeah.
that's 3 artists from the book Lost Rockers. That's part 2 of Lost Rockers. We're a little bit over halfway through with the book.
Fantastic.
I hope you like part 2, friends. Tony Mann, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Michael Butler, thanks a lot, and I look forward to when we can continue
just getting rolling with this thing. So we're gonna getting the legs. First one, just getting started. Second one, a lot better. The third one's gonna be even better than that, friends, because there's some good stories in that. A girl named Gloria Jones who wrote "Tainted Love" and drove the car that killed the great Mark Bolan. All that coming up on Lost Rockers. All right.
All right, we'll be in touch and we'll make it happen. And thanks for your interest, everyone. And check out Lost Rockers. It's available. You can get it through Amazon or Barnes & Noble or good bookstores near you.
And there will be, I'll put a link on rockandrollgeek.com where you can find the book as well. Documentary. The
documentary is made by Paul Rachman, director Paul Rachman.
Now,
Stephen Blush,
where can we see
myself,
the documentary?
You're going to have to wait to see that next year.
Not out yet, okay.
We have to clear all the rights to all these people's music that they don't own. And that's part of the horrifying story of being a lost rocker.
Pain in the ass. I know how that goes. All right, Tony, thank you so much for doing this again.
You're quite welcome. Thank you, Michael.
All right, bye. All right, there you go. I hope you enjoyed part 2 of Lost Rockers. What's it called again? Let me see. It's got a subtitle: Lost Rockers, Broken Dreams, and Crash Careers. It's a very good book. Lots of great pictures, well put together. It's a nice pro cover. It's out on Powerhouse Books. Really good book. I can't recommend it enough. I'm going to close out now with a Charlie Farron. This is I was going to do Fahrenheit, but since we talk so much about East Coast, West Coast, and it is one of my favorite Joe Perry Project songs of all time, I think I'm going to close out with that. Before, let me tell you how you can reach the show. rockandrollgeek.com. You can find me on the Facebook. Oh, send me an email, I'm sorry, I'm so out of it. Send me an email, rockandrollgeek@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the Lost Rockers. And find Tony Mann on the Facebook as well. Tell him if you like the episodes, which I got a lot of good feedback. So if you like these series, tell Tony Mann you heard about him on the Rock and Roll Geek Show, and go out there and buy a book. Why not? Tony Mann, great guy. So shut up, Siri. I'm getting out of here before I melt down even more. rockandrollgeek@gmail.com. Area code 706-621-ROCK. Find me on the Facebook, R&R Geek. Find me on the Instagram, Rock and Roll Geek. Find me on the Twitter, R&R Geek. Don't ask about the Instagram, friends. Just don't. All right. Here is East Coast, West Coast with Charlie Farron on lead vocals. And he wrote this song from the Joe Perry Project. We will talk to you later this week, friends.
In the East Coast and the West Coast, through the middle of the city, in the South Shore, in the South Shore, through the middle of the Commonwealth, I will be rocking for you, I will be rolling for you, I will be rocking and rolling for you. On the east side, on the west side,
It's a rock and roll geek train wreck.